Howdy friends, this is Steve DePoe with the Rose Realty team, and this is Focus on Small Business. Howdy friends, Steve DePoe here with the Rose Realty team with this episode of Focus on Small Business. Today I'm here with Catherine Johnson of Travel Creations. Catherine, tell us about your business.
I have been a travel agent for 25 years.
25 years, wow.
And I've owned my own agency for 18. And I'm a mom and pop. I am officed out of my home, but I call myself a mobile travel agent because I'll come to you and we can meet and discuss your trips.
So she's locally owned and operated. That's important. So why should I use a travel agent instead of just booking hotels and airlines on my own?
Well, there's many benefits to using a travel agent. Honestly, I don't charge you a fee. Let me just put a little side note.
Okay.
If it's air only, I will. But typically, most people do air on their own. But if I'm doing your cruise or your land vacation, I'm not going to charge you a fee. I'm going to do all the research. I'm going to find the best deal for you. And also, in this environment we're living in right now, which is very important to everyone about COVID and COVID restrictions, one of the biggest questions I get asked is about having the PCR test. Now, countries are evolving and changing the rules and regulations on a daily basis on who can go where. Well, I can help you figure out which countries you can go to. I had that conversation this morning with a client. She wanted to go to New Zealand, not vaccinated, can't go.
Wow.
So knowing where to go and get that information, that's what I spend my time doing. So you can do your job, whatever that might be, take care of the kids, whatever, and I'm going to do all the research for you.
So it's a little bit, so traveling abroad is actually similar to traveling in the United States in that every state has their own rules and regs. Every country has their own vaccination, PCR test, whatever. Theirs are different too.
Correct. The only thing that is standard for international traveling is coming back into the United States. You have to have a negative PCR test within 72 hours of returning back to the United States. Now, I had a client who decided to book on their own, didn't think about that, and the resort he chose did not offer free testing.
So he had to go out and find it on his own.
Well, yeah, they could arrange it, but they were going to pay for it.
Okay.
Whereas I've got the information for the resorts. I know which ones are still offering free testing. Okay, so it's those little extra benefits and the fact that if you do book with me, well then I take care of anything that needs to be done. Your flight gets changed. I get notified. I notify you. You need your seats changed. I can handle that. You want to be upgraded at the hotel. I can put in a word for you. That kind of thing. So I'm with you the entire trip.
Let's change gears a little bit and talk about cruises. I mean, you booked a cruise for us that we were supposed to leave last January. We left this January. So last January we were canceled because of the whole COVID mess.
Correct.
And this year we were on the cruise, and I think it had only a third of the normal amount of passengers. So guests, and actually we had like 1,300 guests and 1,600 crew.
Right.
I mean, so it was better than 1-to-1. I mean, how's cruising shaping up lately?
Well, cruising has gotten very restrictive. Ages 5 and older must be vaccinated. There's no exception.
Okay.
All of the crew and the staff on board are 100% vaccinated, but the passengers now also have to be vaccinated, ages 5 and up.
Talking to the crew when we were on that cruise, they're not even allowed to, I guess you would call it disembark.
Correct.
When we get to the different ports because they don't want them going on shore, catching something, and then coming back.
That's correct.
We did run into one crew member who missed Cheetos. She couldn't get her Cheetos on shore, so she was kind of disappointed about that. Tell me about some countries right now. so we've got this war going on with between Russia and the Ukraine and all that jazz. Tell me about some countries that we maybe should avoid, either because of COVID and or this supposed war that's going on.
Okay. The biggest thing, and again, a different client this morning, they had a Viking cruise booked for the Baltic Sea, which they were supposed to be spending 2 nights overnight in St. Petersburg. Viking did an amazing job. And for those that don't know, Viking does, yes, river cruises, but they also have ocean cruises. So this is an ocean cruise. What they've done is they've modified the itinerary and added in more ports of call, like in Sweden.
Okay.
All right. So that's the big thing that's happening right now is itineraries are being changed. Cruise ships are not going to Russia, which I know we all talk about we're hurting their economy. Well, hurts their tourism is the number one economy for, I would say, 90% of the countries in the world.
Like most countries, yeah.
And that's going to hurt their economy as well. We're not there to spend our dollars. The cruise ships aren't there to pay those port charges.
Sure.
So that's evolving. And so the lady that called this morning wanted to go to New Zealand but not vaccinated. Well, where else can I go? Where can I go instead? There's this wonderful website that I use as a reference. And I'm sure all of you have heard of Kayak. It's kayak.com/travel-restrictions. And what that has is they keep up to date and they have a map and it's color coded. Countries that are completely wide open are green. Then there's the orange. I don't know why they picked that color, but anyway, the orange, I guess a warning, because they're open with restrictions.
Okay.
And then there's the red ones that are still closed completely. So with New Zealand being closed, I looked and was able to tell her countries she could go to unvaccinated.
Okay.
So it's a good resource, not just for me, but for everyone to see, to look at. And what I'm telling you today probably is going to be changed within 15 minutes of us talking.
Sure.
So, yeah, we'll put that disclaimer in there. But that's the biggest conversations are, where can I go? Do I have to have a PCR test negative to come back? Yes, you do. Mm-hmm. Okay. Through this whole thing, Mexico has been wide open for U.S. passengers, also the Dominican Republic. Both of those are completely open for everybody.
Okay.
And of course, in Dallas, take a nonstop flight, and you're in Cancun in 2 hours.
Sure, absolutely.
And on the beach.
Absolutely.
So, especially after these couple really icy cold days.
I know.
That we
had to warm up a little bit.
Yeah, head to the beach.
So I'm not sure we touched on this, but so we get the question, as a realtor, we get the question of how do we get paid? So if I have a buyer, they say, well, how am I going to pay you? I got to come up with more money to pay you for your services. Then actually that's paid through the seller. How do you end up getting paid?
Well, I actually get paid by the supplier that I'm selling, representing. You mentioned your cruise. So the cruise line pays me. The tour companies that I package your trips, we'll use the Mexico scenario. I have clients in Mexico right now, of course, well, it's spring break. And I booked that last July. I get paid once they get back. Okay. So these companies pay me, but it's not until after you travel.
So it's a lot like us. You get paid at closing almost.
Oh, there you go.
When the people come back, we don't get paid until closing either.
Well, let me give you a really cool, exciting scenario for me, and fingers crossed, of course. And because this happened in the fall, almost 25 years of being in business, I had my first client book a world cruise.
Oh, excellent.
It's 155 days.
Wow.
Now, again, going back to I don't get paid till after you travel. She's not traveling until January 2024.
So that's a lot. So that's a lot of work with you up front.
Right.
Okay.
So it's projected earnings.
Sure.
You keep your fingers crossed that everything happens the way it's supposed to, and that check comes Well, she won't be back till like mid-June.
So here's a question for you. So she's going on a world cruise. Where's she going to go the year after that?
Well, I know this is a special celebration for her. This is her retirement gift to herself.
Excellent.
Yeah, she's traveled a lot of the world, but never 155 days at one time.
That's what we're all looking forward to, is our retirement trip.
Right, exactly. So that's her present to herself.
Catherine, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Steve.
This is Steve DePaul with the Rose Realty team. I'm going to bounce.
24.
So that's a lot. So that's a lot of work with you up front.
Right.
Okay.
So it's projected earnings.
Sure.
You know, you keep your fingers crossed that everything happens the way it's supposed to, and that check comes. Well, she won't be back until like mid-June.
So here's a question for you. So she's going on a world cruise. Where's she going to go the year after that?
Well, I know this is a special celebration for her. This is her retirement gift to herself.
Excellent.
Yeah, she's traveled a lot of the world, but never 155 days at one time.
That's what we're all looking forward to, is our retirement trip.
Right, exactly. So that's her present to herself.
Catherine, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Steve.
This is Steve DePaul with the Rose Realty team. I'm going to bounce.